Kirby and Joseph here with the Throwing Partners podcast. This is week 3 for us, giving you a weekly recap of the 2024 Major League Baseball season. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Throwing Partners Pod. You can find us on our socials at KirbyD4 and at JAguilar7891. Joe, it's been an interesting week in the big leagues. The first thing that I'm going to talk about tonight is the Phillies debuted their City Connect jerseys. Me and you have already talked about this. And as the resident Braves fan here, I will say I love their powder blues. Okay. However, these new City Connects are ugly. The bell hat is kind of cool. The rest of the jersey looks like a men's slow pitch softball league. Like that's what they look like to me. They look like slow pitch jerseys. But slow pitch.
I think you're giving them too much credit when you say that they look like that.
I just don't. I'm not feeling it, man. Okay, but here's my thing though, Joe. I hate black baseball pants. To me, that is a softball thing, and I can't stand it. Baseball pants need to be white, or gray, or pinstripe, or match the jersey top that's not black. So Phillies fans are they're gonna hate me for it, but man, I can't stand those jerseys. They're ugly. And the font, I can't stand the font. The font is total softball vibes. So that was one of the first things that I had on the agenda tonight. Something else that we had kind of talked about last week is how the Tigers were actually off to a good start. So I did a little digging, Joe. Are they good or not? Okay. They're currently sitting at 6-3. They're second in their division behind the Guardians, whom I picked to win the division. Okay, even though Bieber went down this week, which really sucks. I hate that he's got to go through TJ, man, because he was really doing well. So the Tigers are 6-3. They have a team ERA right now of 2.51. Fantastic. However, they have a team WRC plus of 82. League average is 100. Okay? So their pitching staff has done exceptionally well. However, you're hitting below league average against the A's, White Sox, and Mets. None of those teams have any good pitching staffs. None of those teams have a real horse except maybe the White Sox and Garrett Crochet. So are the Tigers good? I'm gonna say no. Now I could be totally wrong. Their offense can come around, and if they end up being a league average offense, maybe they're a little better than league average, and we might see them be a 500 team or better this year. But I'm going to say no right now. I think it's just a product of who they've been playing. Earlier this week, we saw the Reds take the series from the Phillies. Not really a super high scoring series. The Phillies offense, once again, they're struggling right now. Could be because they're playing in some cold weather environments. Their team WRC plus right now is 91. And then the Marlins finally got a win, Joe. They were the last team that was winless. However, they did take a big loss this week. Yuri Perez goes down with TJ. I don't know what the numbers are, but I think this week in baseball, we lost like 3 or 4 guys to TJ or possible TJ. I don't know if that's pitch clock related. I don't know if it is velocity related, stress related. Most of these guys that are pitching grew up pitching pretty much year round. I don't really know what the cause is. Spin rates. I mean, everybody wants to have a spin rate of 3,000. Everybody wants to throw the ball 98 miles an hour. So I'm not really sure, but it's hard seeing all these really talented guys go down, especially this early in the season. My guy Mookie Betts is still on fire. At this rate, he's going to run away with the MVP, and it's not going to be close. He is an absolute burner still. I would hate to have to face that guy and then Ohtani shortly after that. And then this week we actually got an announcement that the A's, this will officially be their last year in Oakland, in 2024. For the next 3 seasons after that, they are going to move to Sacramento and play at their AAA stadium, um, which only holds 10,000 people. However, if you open up the lawn seats, you can have 14,000, which I was thinking about this today. More than likely, even over the next 3 years, they're not going to be a playoff team. But what if in 3 years they're a wild card team? Is MLB really going to host a playoff game at a stadium that only holds 10,000 people? I mean, is that really going to happen? I hate the idea of that. You know, you and I have talked about this before. Even though the A's have sold off or traded every single talented player they have, they draft well, they develop well, and they always have guys that come up and smash baseballs or throw baseballs 100 miles an hour. So they're obviously doing something right. But I hate that for them. I hate that for their fans. I was actually listening to Baseball is Dead earlier this week, when Dallas Braden was talking about it, and it was hard listening to that. I can't imagine if one of our teams just, basically got up and left. We either had to follow them or we had to find a new team. So I hate that for them. So as far as around the league, that's kind of what's going on. Joe, give us an Astros update, and then I'm going to ask you some questions related to the Astros.
All right, well, the Astros won today, uh, the nightcap against the Rangers, 3-1. Josh Hader officially got his first save as a Houston Astro, although he did allow a late ninth inning run to close out the game. He did allow a couple base runners as well um, with that run, so not great signs of encouragement from him. But Ryan Presley did have a good outing. He was able to navigate the eighth inning without allowing any runs. So I think that's a big step forward. Ronel Blanco pitched very well tonight again after throwing the no-hitter on Monday, which I was actually at that game. So they look to split the series with the Rangers tomorrow, after dropping the first two on Friday and Saturday. But to start off the week on Monday, like I mentioned, Ronel Blanco threw a no-hitter. The Astros' fifth starter, and someone who had only made, I believe, 7 starts prior to his no-hitter. Um, he was notified that he made the team coming out of his start from spring training, his last start from spring training, which was an exhibition game where the Astros faced the Sugarland Space Cowboys in Minute Maid. And Joe Espada actually told him that he made the team as he was walking off the mound. Now, he finished that performance with, I believe, 10 strikeouts. So he had a very good outing. He didn't just, make the roster to fill a spot. He made it because he performed well in spring training. I believe he went all of spring training without allowing a run. And you know what's crazy is that same day that he had that 10 strikeout performance, hours before he was at the hospital with his wife, where she gave birth to, I believe, their first child. So, it's kind of a crazy story, that Monday game. You know, Ronel Blanco, a week prior, had his first child and was notified that he was making the big league club because of various different injuries. And then in his first start of the season, to get the Astros' first win, to get Joe Espada's first career win as a manager, he goes out there and he dominates the Blue Jays with his newly found changeup. And he throws, I believe it's the 17th no hitter in Astros history. So it was great. It was really great to see. I was actually in attendance for that game. It was an awesome atmosphere near the end because everybody knew what was happening. Mauricio Dubon came in and made a really good play in the eighth, and then Jose Abreu to save the no hitter also made a really good play in the ninth, I believe. But that is really kind of where the nice things about the Astros end. They did take 2 of 3 from the Blue Jays, and they did score a lot of runs in that no hitter. Um, but they have struggled overall to start the season. They have not done well as a team hitting with runners in scoring position. And they've been getting runners on base. They just haven't been, moving guys over, and they also haven't been, hitting the gaps to where players can go first to third or even first to home. They've been really struggling hitting with guys on base, and their left on base numbers are some of the worst in the league. They're in the bottom half of the league with runners in scoring position. Batting average wise, their batting average is 213, which would rank them 24th in the league. And overall, they're not clicking as a unit. A lot of guys are individually having decent starts to the season, like Altuve, Tucker, Diaz, Pena. They've all had decent starts so far. I believe that Tucker and Diaz have kind of cooled off, but Altuve has had a hit in all of the first 10 games. But it's just the lack of you know next man up mentality has hurt them so far to start the season. They have not been you know moving the line as they get through the lineup. It's been a lot of strikeouts, in the middle of a rally, or weak pop flies. Not really having good situational hitting when it's needed. So, it's been pretty bad to start the year offensively. They're not very cohesive as a unit as it stands right now, and I think that an adjustment that needs to be made in the lineup is I think that Jose Abreu needs to be moved further down. I think that Chas McCormick and Jeremy Pena should kind of skip him. I wouldn't even think it's crazy to hit him ninth, behind Myers, who is quietly having a pretty decent start to the season. I think he reached base safely twice today, so that's more than what Abreu has been able to give you um, to start the season. You know, So I just think that a lineup adjustment is needed, and I think that a lot of people were criticizing Joe Espada um, last night for saying that he believes in Jose Abreu, but I think that everybody knows that for Joe, that's just coach speak. Because he's actually already made an adjustment to the lineup where Abreu has slid down. He's not going to go out and blast the guy publicly, but it's an adjustment to what Dusty Baker would have done, because Dusty Baker would have gone out there and said, we have 100% confidence in him that he will find it, but he would have been hitting in the four hole all 162. I mean, Jose Abreu, I know that he had a good end of the year last year, but he was hitting in the four hole during the ALCS. I mean, he didn't earn that spot. He got that because of his name and because of what he's done in the past. As Dusty Baker would put it, he was in that position because of the back of his baseball card, because of what's on the back of his baseball card. And Joe Espada has already proven that he's not afraid to make a change in the lineup. So I think that's definitely a breath of fresh air. But it'll be interesting to see how far he's willing to go um, to benefit this team and get Abreu out of those, positions where he's, in the middle of the lineup, being a black hole.
So, with that being said, Joe, Abreu has, I think, 2 hits on the year, maybe 3.
Correct.
Okay.
2.
2 hits. Okay. With that being said, does he need to hit 8th? Does he need to hit 9th?
Well, I came out and said that I don't think it would be crazy for him to hit ninth. Like I said, Jake Myers is quietly having a decent start to the year. Um, so I wouldn't mind seeing him, moved up into the lineup a little bit. Jake Myers currently right now has a 134 WRC plus, and that's because he's actually been hitting pretty well with runners on. Now, I don't think he's really gotten many RBI chances, but he's gotten a lot of opportunities with a runner on first where he hits a single. So, that's going to obviously boost up his numbers. Um, and so I think that just, having that, uh, be more consistent with him, because once you get to, past Yiner and then you have Abreu, that's kind of the biggest rally killer. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of the contact that Abreu has been having has either been driven straight into the ground or a weak pop fly to the second baseman or first baseman. He is so behind on every pitch, not even off speed. Last year he could at least handle the off speed, but this year he can't even touch it either. Like it's kind of baffling to see how bad his plate appearances have been so far to start the season. So you know, I really wouldn't think it's crazy to see him bat eighth or ninth, you know. And if Joey Luperfido keeps mashing in Sugarland, I wouldn't be surprised if Abreu gets DFA'd altogether. Once the Astros feel like Luperfido has seen enough at bats at first base in Sugarland.
I was just fixing to ask you about Joey Lopperfido. Um, I saw the move that they decided to let him play first base. I thought that was brilliant. He is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely smashing baseballs at that level. Um, I'm going to throw out a trade idea for you, Joe, and I want you to give me your thoughts on it. The Astros need a power bat. That's no secret. Um, Jose Abreu is not tradable. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
However,
not with that contract.
no. However, there hasn't really been any talks about Pete Alonso possibly getting an extension done with the Mets. Since he is on an expiring contract, he's probably not going to cost that much. When it comes to that trade deadline time, should Dana Brown make that phone call and see if Pete Alonso is available?
It's an interesting trade idea. I hope that they don't wait that long to address the first base situation, because defensively, and I haven't even touched on this, um, defensively, it's a very important position. And defensively, Jose Abreu, again, looks awful. He's had a couple errors already to start the season on a couple balls that were pickable. I know he had that play where he saved the no hitter on Monday, but he still looks really bad defensively as well. So I hope that they don't take that long to address it because it is such an important position. I hope that they can fill that internally because quite honestly, they just don't have the organizational depth to go out and get someone like Pete Alonso. I know that he's not going to cost a lot because of the expiring contract, but it it's tapping into depth that the Astros already are so thin on. So I hope that they can fill it internally with Joey Loperfido. Um, but if they don't feel confident enough, and if Joey cools down and isn't, I know that he's had a bit of a strikeout problem already to start the season. But if he, continues to rake, at least hit the long ball because that's really what the Astros are lacking right now. They're lacking a real power bat. And I got flamed for this last week and saying that the Astros haven't really had a true power hitter. Yes, I know that Yordan Alvarez exists, people. I am not the stupidest Astros fan alive. But Yordan Alvarez, his best hit tool is not his power. His best hit tool is him being a pure hitter, a pure situational hitter, someone that can drive the ball into the gaps, someone that can get a base hit off of a lefty righty. It doesn't matter. Like, yes, he can come up at any time and hit a home run because he has crazy power, but he is not going to sacrifice a good plate appearance to go all out for the long ball.
That's right.
That's something that someone like Jorge Soler or Pete Alonso typically do.
Mm-hmm.
They sell, a decent plate appearance for the opportunity to hit a home run almost every at bat. and I said that Yainer Diaz could potentially be that guy, but quite honestly, I think that Joey Lopezito might be able to fill that role too, because Yainer is also almost like Jordan in a way that he also just has a great ability to make contact with a pitch no matter like where it's at, but not like hit the ball out, just drive it to the other like the opposite field. Um, so yes, I got flamed for that take, but there was context with that take that I didn't do a good job of explaining. Um, and you know what? I might not have done a good job again, but whatever. I know that Jordan Alvarez exists. I know that he hits for crazy power. But that was not the point of the tweet. Um, but so back to Jose Abreu and the trade. I think that Joey Loperfido, I think that they need to have it addressed internally, like I said, because of the organizational depth issues. And I think the only thing that's going to prevent them from doing that is if Joey Loperfido cools off, to end my point.
Yep. Okay, Joe. Let's talk about another issue with the Astros. What is going on with somebody like Ryan Presley, Josh Hader, Brian Abreu? Those late inning guys that we both agreed on were going to be lockdown guys and not have any issues. What's going on with them?
Yeah, I can't really tell you. When we did our preview podcast, and I said that Astros games would be over in the sixth inning, I didn't think it meant that they would be over because the back half of the bullpen would be blowing the lead. So yeah, it's been a real struggle with Ryan Presley. Specifically, he's looked pretty bad to start the season. He's had more opportunities than Brian Abreu, just because Brian had those 2 game suspensions that he had to serve. But Brian has also looked horrible as well. They've both had their struggles. And it doesn't help that the Astros haven't really given them a lot of margin for error when it comes to them coming in and to 1-run ball games. Really, that's all they've been coming into, or tied games. Um, but they're big leaguers and they were put in this position for a reason. They should be able to hold on to that lead. But not giving them enough margin for error early on in the season has kind of hurt them and hurt their ability to get back into a groove. Um, but it's coming at a really bad time, and it's coming in a place where you thought um, you know you were going to have your least amount of concern in the bullpen. Rafael Montero has come out, after giving up a home run in his first appearance. He's looked pretty good so far. He pitched really well today. I think he had a 1-2-3 inning. So, that's encouraging to see. And he was in the 7th, I believe. So, um, you know, Presley, like I mentioned earlier, pitched really well today, but his ERA, early season ERA, is up to 20.25. So, it's going to be about the offense, really, just giving them enough margin for error to just make the adjustment, because Presley is coming into a role that he's not used to. And I know that for people that don't play baseball, they're going to say, oh, well, he's just coming in 1 inning earlier. What's the big deal? But they were discussing it on the broadcast tonight, where they were saying, it's a change. It's a change in his habit. It's a change in his routine. It's an adrenaline shift, because you're coming in as a closer. You're coming into an atmosphere that's more rowdy than it is in the 8th inning. So there's a little bit more of an adrenaline boost, and a lot of pitchers have come out, and a lot of closers have come out and said that they rely heavily on that adrenaline boost to get them through that 1 inning. So it's an adjustment. And then Josh Hader, he has been just as bad, if not worse, than Ryan Presley. I think that for me, Josh Hader has only had 2 save opportunities, and he's looked bad in both of them. He looked bad tonight. He dodged a bullet. I believe that the double play that Alex Berkman turned to that they turned to end the game, the ball was hit like 101 off of the bat, and he just so happened to be there. So I just think that he needs to. I don't even know, man. I don't know. He hasn't looked good. Um, he blew the game against the Yankees where Soto hit that RBI off of him, and he just hasn't. He hasn't lived up to the contract, and I think that, again, I'm gonna harp on this again. It was a real mistake not replacing those 200 innings with more than one person. I think that's honestly put a lot of pressure on him because of the fact that we didn't go out and address those other needs. So I don't know if that's what he's, facing right now, or if it's, you know, a regression altogether. Because I believe in his first year with San Diego, um, I know he came in at the deadline for them. He didn't pitch well for them in that half of the year either. So I don't know if it's him adjusting to his new scenery that he's really struggled with or what, but he needs to lock it down. I think that maybe this one clean outing from Presley might set him back on track, and hopefully they can get Abreu out there tomorrow in a decent spot where he can really work out of his funk as well.
Okay, Joe. So before the season started, this is the last question I'm going to ask you about the Astros. Before the season started, we talked about how we thought that Joe Espada had them set up with possibly the best lineup we had seen in a long time from an Astros manager. Do you still believe that? And do you think that they need a real lineup adjustment? We've already talked about Abreu. We know he should be hitting eighth or ninth. That's no secret. How about the rest of them?
So, like I was saying, I think that the line. You know what? I'm gonna be flat out honest. I think the lineup is fine. Outside of Jose Abreu, he's the new punching bag. He's the new Martin Maldonado. But I think it's only a matter of time before Bregman breaks out of his funk. He's a notoriously slow starter, so I think that him busting out of that will really change the outlook of this lineup because he's been in a lot of RBI opportunities and he just hasn't been able to come through. I think that that's really what's been holding up the lineup for the most part. Jordan has also started slow. He had that big home run tonight, that 3-run home run, which was the only runs that the Astros produced. But it was good to finally see him come up with guys on base. It's been so frustrating to see Altuve end an inning, or there no one. It's been really frustrating to see Altuve end an inning, and he's Jordan is the first batter up to bat with no one on, or there be no one on with Jordan up, and while he hasn't been producing in those spots either, it's been frustrating to just see him come up to the plate with no runners on, and I think that that's still an adjustment that he has to make, and the hitters in front of him have to make, because Altuve, I think, needs to kind of quiet his approach down a little bit. I know that he's got a hit safely in all 10 games, but I think that he needs to focus a little more on just getting on base. Taking the walk. He's been starting off games pretty slow. Um, I know that he had a hit to start off the series the first inning. That was, I believe, the only hit they had that game. But I think it's all about approach for them right now. I think that their approach is wrong. I think that their lineup is fine because once everybody starts clicking with the right approach, you know, you got Jordan and Tucker hitting back to back, two perennial MVP candidates. And then you have Alex Bregman, who can be that guy. We've seen it. In 2019, he was that guy. He can be that guy, I believe, based off of what I saw in spring training, and based off of some of the underlying data that was produced in the first couple of games. I believe that just a little bit of a swing adjustment and he'll be right back on track. But I think that for the most part, the lineup is fine. I would move everybody up a spot and just drop Abreu down to the bottom. Um, and I really think that, you know, that almost solves your back half of the lineup problems. Um, but honestly, the back half of the lineup has been some of the most consistent hitters for the Astros so far. I mean, they've been, some of the ones getting on base, consistently. So I think it's really the top half that isn't pulling their weight so far.
Can't say I disagree on most of that, Joe. Um, I'm going to go ahead and move us into our Braves update for the week. So let me just say they started off in Chicago, playing on the South Side against the White Sox. It was a cold and nasty series there. Rain, sleet, snow, whatever kind of precipitation that you could have, they had it, and it was ugly. They didn't even play the last game there. They came home early. They split those two games. Won the first one, lost the second one. However, in those two games, Charlie Morton, the ageless wonder, looked fantastic. And then fifth starter Reynaldo Lopez also looked excellent. So for the 4 and 5 guys, their first time through the rotation, love the way that they looked. Now let's move into the weekend series. They brought the reigning NL champs to Truist, the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks came out and absolutely torched Spencer Strider. Now we all know how that ended. The Braves ended up walking it off, or not, with Travis d'Arnaud. So that was great. However, during that start, something that I noticed, and a lot of other people noticed, Spencer Strider's velo was really down. Usually he sits around 97. His velo was down like 94, 95, which is not good for him. The last time it was that low was that 2022 postseason series against the Phillies. Now, something else that I noticed during the game that I kept trying to point out to people was the fact that after every strikeout or every batter, he kept shaking his arm. Kept shaking his arm. It was really odd, like he was having some issues with it. And to me, when you see that, you automatically think that he's got like tingling or maybe numbness in that arm. Well, sure enough, after the game, the Braves came out and said that he was having some issues and having some right elbow discomfort. Now he ended up having an MRI the next day, which I had to wait until 4:20 to hear about, which was a long day of waiting. And the MRI did reveal some damage. And he's currently, I don't know if he's there yet. I'm sure he is there. He's in Arlington seeing Dr. Keith Meister, who does um, the vast majority of all TJ surgeries for big leaguers. Now, with that being said, Strider has already had TJ. He had it when he was in college at Clemson. So if he has to have TJ again for the second time, um, that's pretty concerning. Now today, the Braves recalled Alan Winans in place of Strider. When the Braves announced it, they actually said that it was a sprained UCL. I don't want to give anybody any false hope, but that sounds a whole lot better than what they initially said. Now, that could just be something to make Braves fans feel a little bit better, and then maybe it's not going to be so bad. However, I am thinking the worst, and I think that he's probably going to end up having a second Tommy John. So that's how Friday night's game went, and how Saturday afternoon went once we got the news about Strider. However, one thing that I discussed on the preview was that their rotation could be the best in baseball, health pending. And we've already seen Strider go down. And then moving into game 2, talking about their starters. Max Fried looked absolutely horrible again. Did not pitch well. Gave up, I think, 6 or 7 runs, and he just didn't look good. He hasn't looked good in either of his starts so far against the Diamondbacks or the Phillies. I'm sure that he's probably pressing a little bit because this is a contract year. But if you want to make a lot of money, you're going to have to pitch well. And so far, he's not doing that. Now, granted, once again, the Braves came back. They ended up winning that game after being down 6-0. So that was great. They ended up winning. And then they actually won again today against the Diamondbacks and swept that series. Now, positives from this weekend. First of all, the Braves threw 14 and a third innings of shutout ball from their bullpen. Okay. This whole week, including Monday and Tuesday, so 5 games this week that they played, the bullpen only gave up 2 runs. I knew this bullpen was going to be great. I did not think they were going to be this good. If they can go every week where the bullpen only gives up 2 runs, they'd probably win 120 games. Not even kidding. So a shout out to the bullpen for just being absolute dogs out there. They've been great. Um, Today, Chris Sale got to pitch for the first time at Truist as a member of the Braves, and he looked fantastic. That guy's healthy. That guy's on. I mean, he threw a slider to Ketel Marte today, and Ketel Marte swung and it hit him. So that just tells you how good the stuff is. As a team, they've got a WRC plus of 141 right now. The offense is doing their thing. We knew their offense was going to be good, and guess what? They're just behind the Rangers, who I told y'all was going to have the best offense in the league, and they're just ahead of the Dodgers. And then once again, I have mentioned this dude several times already, but I'm going to mention it again. Jared Kelnick, okay, once a highly touted high school prospect, drafted by the Mets, traded to the Mariners, didn't do well with them, had a lot of issues, didn't live up to expectations. The Braves traded for him in a money dump with Seattle, and he has absolutely gone off since the season started. Kevin Seitzer has worked his black magic again, and he has reached base safely in all 8 games with the Braves, and he's batting .579 out of the 9 hole. I don't know about you, but I would take that from any guy on the team. It wouldn't matter what position they were hitting in. But for him to be hitting in the 9 hole, and he's hitting .579 right in front of Ronald Acuna, that tells you that Acuna always pretty much has runners on when he comes up to the plate. So shout out to him for putting in that work with Kevin Seitzer. It's been just absolutely incredible to see. So other than that, the Braves, they came back, they won. They had a good series overall against the Diamondbacks, even though they didn't pitch particularly well from their starters. Hoping for the best from Strider, but expecting the worst. Which, I mean, it just sucks. But I mean, there's not a lot we can do about it. We saw Yuri Perez go down this week. We saw Shane Bieber go down this week. And then I even saw something with Kevin Gossman about his velo being way down too. I didn't do any research into that, but I thought that was interesting as well. Oh, and then Jonathan Loaizaga for the Yankees. I think he went down as well. So man, just a brutal week for pitchers. I don't know how anybody wants to go be a pitcher these days, because I just feel like half the league is going to be injured by the end of the year. Joe, before we close it out tonight, do you have any final thoughts?
I was just taking a look here on Fangraphs, and I think that, one thing I want to touch on again for the Astros is, they've had a very brutal start, one of their worst starts since 2011. But actually, through 8 games, they hadn't, had their worst start since 2019. A team that won 107 games, a team that lost, in the World Series in Game 7, but statistically had one of the best offenses in all of MLB history. It's probably one of the top 5 offenses of all time. So, I was just looking here on Fangraphs and trying to compare, their start offensively from last year to this year. And, this year, they rank 4th in the league with WRC plus to start the season through 9 games. And last year, they were in the bottom half of the league at 25th with an 87 WRC plus to start off the season. So, while it's very interesting to look at the overall stats to see kind of what their difference is, like right now, their home run totals, they have 13 on the year. I believe, right now. But a lot of those came in one game. Uh, it's going to be interesting to see how this season plays out. And once guys start actually clicking as a cohesive unit, and they start playing, their brand of baseball that we're used to seeing, moving the guys along, getting on base, taking steals. I know that, one of their philosophies, was going to be to be more aggressive. Well, they've only had 4 successful stolen base attempts so far this year. I think that once everybody feels like they've gotten into a better groove offensively, they'll start to put more pressure on. But I actually wouldn't mind starting to see that um, a little more now that they're struggling. And I know that this is going to sound crazy because, you don't want to erase your base runners when you're struggling offensively, but I think that they need to put more pressure on the defense to make plays, and I think that that's something they haven't been doing a good job of yet so far. So, Verlander had his first start, basically his first spring training start for him. He got rocked. He gave up 6 runs, but he was working on his changeup, which is something that the Astros, I guess, have gone organizationally, or like they have taken it organization wide, and said, "You get a changeup, you get a changeup, and you get a changeup," like Oprah. So he was working on that. I'm not sure what the outing looked like for him. I'm not sure how his changeup looked. But if I had to guess, that might have been a pitch that he didn't throw well today, just based on some of the tweets that I saw from different reporters. So it'll be interesting to see how his return coincides with the Astros offense. Kind of taking that next step. Even though statistically, if using WRC plus, they're top 4 in the league. But it'll just be interesting to see how the season progresses. It's 162. It's a marathon, not a sprint. A lot of teams that have gotten off to this hot start, like you said, the Tigers, um, you know, it'll be sorted out and like during the course of the season, like who the contenders and who the pretenders are. So I'm not worried about the Astros. Yeah, I'm not pushing the panic button, but I think that some serious conversations do need to be had in that locker room to just light a fire under them. And hopefully they can take tomorrow's game and split the series with Texas, and hopefully they can go out and take care of business at home against them as well during the weekend series.
Agreed. Well, and it's going to be interesting too because they're about to go to Kansas City this week for 3 games, and then they come home to play Texas, and then they got Atlanta. So it doesn't necessarily get easier yet because the Royals starting pitching has done a fantastic job so far between Raggins and Lugo and Waka. They've looked really sharp. And then I still hope that I don't feel like an absolute idiot not picking Bobby Witt Jr. for MVP because he's also started off on a real burner. But as far as my final thoughts, Joe, now obviously neither one of us were alive for this, but tomorrow, April 8th, marks 50 years since Hank Aaron hit 715 and broke Babe Ruth's record for the most home runs ever by a baseball player. So 50 years, I just think that's just awesome. I love the Brave City Connects, how they pay homage to that. It means a lot to me. I almost wore that again tonight because I really like that jersey, and for April 8th. But it's gonna be really cool to see what the media shows about that tomorrow, what they say, and I'm sure the Braves are gonna have some special tribute videos as well. So yeah, tomorrow's gonna be a cool day. It's gonna be an interesting day with the eclipse as well. Um, so that's it, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in and listening. Once again, it's Kirby and Joseph here with the Throwing Partners podcast. If you would, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then you can follow us on our Instagram as well, at KirbyD4 and at JAguilar7891. Thanks, and have a great evening.